How long until we find out what Kiefer's plan is? Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So, that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 9 of Witch Hat Atelier. I am a day late on this because of the holiday. Like, it doesn't matter to you guys, you're obviously seeing this at the normal day and time. But I'm actually, reacting to this a day later than I normally do. I usually react to this on Mondays just after the episode comes out. I get to it as soon as possible. But this week, due to the movie or due to the holiday, I wasn't able to record on Monday. I got the stuff I had set up for the Monday I needed to pre-record and everything ahead of time. But I wasn't able to get to this. And mind you, you're seeing this in the future. This is right after Memorial Day, for those of you who are wondering. Here in the U.S., we have Memorial Day, and because of that, I wasn't able to record. Just didn't have the availability to. I actually spent most of the day playing Avowed. But yeah, so the reason I'm bringing this up is I've had to avoid spoilers because people do talk about the series quite a lot. And I do know one thing. I'll be honest with this right off the bat. I did see a screenshot of the girls in a field or something. It was very bright, very vibrant. I don't know the context of anything, but it was kind of focused on Tetia. And that's all I know. It's not any actual information. It's not any big spoilers. But I did see that. It was one thing I just was unable to avoid. So again, I don't know the context behind it, but I want to be honest whenever I do come across anything like that and let you guys know. It's yeah, I know something, even if it's kind of nothing. So we really need to find out what's going on with Kiefer, and I don't know if we're going to find that out by the end of the season. I don't know how the author has crafted this for the setups and the payoffs to occur and how long between that's going to be. Listen, I'm a One Piece watcher, so I'm used to having to wait forever for payoffs. And I don't know if Shimamome, I think is her name. If I've gotten that wrong, I apologize. But the author of Which Atelier, I don't know like how she wants to do that, if she's gonna have things not be revealed until much later on, and continue to build it up for now, or if we're gonna actually find out like by the end of this season's content. I don't know, but I'm very curious because we have all these steps, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't think there's any like ill intent. Um, I think something happened in the past with Kiefer, maybe in relation to his family or a previous student that he took under his wing. Something obviously involving the brimmed caps. And he's been trying to find them, trying to get any kind of information, any kind of like assistance in maybe taking them down that he possibly could. And he's trying to avoid working with, the Knights Morales because they're the Knights Morales. They're kind of psychopaths. As we saw in the previous episodes. They are just not really trustworthy to work with, and the way they handle things is, very quote unquote by the book, a little too by the book. And the problem is, even in the real world, a lot of times when law enforcement plays that close to the law, things don't get done. Nothing actually is resolved because there's all of this red tape in the way. And so a lot of times you'll see killers and rapists and stuff get free and not have to face any repercussions because of the way the law is set up. Because let's be honest, in real life, especially here in America, the law is set up to protect the worst people. It just is. It's set up to be against the average citizen. This isn't new information. It's been like this forever. And it might not have initially been intended to be that way, but it became that way because of, the powerful elite pulling the strings. And people have obviously, just because of his appearance, compared Kiefer to Satoru Gojo from JJK. Even though a lot of people were saying oh, he looks like Gojo. It's no, Gojo looks like him. Witch Hat's manga came first. But even beyond that, there are some similarities for sure. Such as the distaste for authority. Both Gojo and Kiefer definitely share that. Kiefer's a lot less chaotic, though. Even with these mysteries, he's a lot less chaotic than Gojo. Also, I don't think Kiefer's necessarily supposed to be one of the strongest. So, yeah. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that there's definitely that kind of, again, disdain for the way things work within the scope of legality and red tape, and a desire to kind of circumvent that for the betterment of the average people. In JJK, Gojo constantly goes against the Jujutsu hierarchy and the sorcerers in charge and stuff, doing things his own way because he wants to genuinely support the younger generations and give them a better world to live in than he was given. He's a genuinely good person who has an ego and a little bit of a sass to him, but a genuinely good person who wants to help the next generation. And then you have Kiefer, who is taking in and teaching these young witches and teaching them in ways that go not really go against the laws and everything, but are more of what they need at any given time rather than the regulatory ideals. And he makes it very clear, like, even right in front of them, that he does not like or side with the Knights Morales, who are basically, again, as I've called them, witch cops. And it clearly rubs off on them, too, seeing how they actively have rebelled against the Knights Morales. Like, Riche coming in with the kick to stop the memory loss spell and everything. It's like it's great to see, like, that he's influenced them to not just accept blindly the authority that is placed in front of them, that is forced upon them, but to question things and do the right thing in spite of what the authorities actually say. Because just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. And mind you, Kiefer seems to agree with the base ideas of this. Like, oh, wild magic, as I like to call it because of the Owl House connection, is dangerous and we do need to keep things under control. But we also see Kiefer is not inherently sticking to that himself. We see that he's doing things that he actively doesn't like because he feels them necessary to achieve whatever this goal is. Such as, taking away Nanoa's memory in the last episode. So yeah, this series has just given me so much to chew on. It's given me so much, like, depth and lore and character. And I've talked before how, like, character and story are the most important things in pretty much any series for me. So this show, like, giving all of that in spades is exactly the kind of shit I look for. The world building, just the depths of all of these different characters and the variances to their personalities. This is the kind of shit I eat up. This is the kind of shit that fuels me with these kind of shows. It's one of the things I loved so much about the Owl House. And knowing that this series inspired the Owl House, I can very much see it. It's obviously not exactly the same, and it shouldn't be. We know Dana Terrace did her thing and made things in their way for the Owl House. So I just like that you can see clearly where the inspiration comes from. So yeah. Sorry for these bit of a longer pre-thoughts today. There's just a lot I wanted to talk about. I'm just so excited for this series every week. And it sucks because we're in, like, the later bits of the season. This season took years to get made and everything, and now we're going to have to wait possibly years for the next. And mind you, with the quality we've gotten here, I'm very willing to wait. But it just sucks that this is only a single core season. I feel like so many anime are just doing that nowadays, or just, like, for production costs and stuff. I'm so glad Damon's of the Shadow Realm is doing a double core. I just really wish this was too. Just personally, I do. But either way, I'm excited to see, like, where we end up going with the ending episodes of this season. What kind of note it's going to even end on. And I'm excited to just have that hype set up for season 2 when it does come. For the time being, I think we should get into this, so let's see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, it's always interesting to see a type of episode that doesn't have a singular focus, but instead tends to touch base on a lot of different things at once. A lot of different character moments, a lot of different plot relevant moments, and even a lot of different developments that the series has been, pushing forward throughout. It's really interesting to see this kind of episode because it can very easily be done poorly to where it just feels like a mishmash of moments rather than this actual well integrated, story. um it could absolutely feel like just a bunch of random things thrown together. But I feel like um the author as well as those who are working on it in the studio for this adaptation made this work out in such a brilliant way that tied everything together in ways even unexpected and allowed all these otherwise disjointed elements to blend harmoniously together. It's honestly breathtaking. This series continues to impress me. It even tied up a loose end from earlier in the series that I was still wondering about. Because I'd been like I'd rewatched like episodes and stuff, and that was one thing that always bothered me. Not that Coco never said anything, because Coco wouldn't, but that Agat never said anything about the entire Dada Range incident, and that Kefri never even confronted them about it, about the fact that Coco was doing this well before her time. It's like this was all stuff that I felt should have been addressed. And it felt weird that it never was to any degree. But now we find out why. Coco held it back to not get Agat in trouble. Because she, I feel, knows that Agat didn't do it out of like necessarily like evil intent or anything. But there's something more there. And Coco seems to be a pretty good judge of character so far. Outside of like when she was a little kid and, interacted with the brimmed cap. But, I'm talking more current day. And I think she can tell that there's been more going on with Agat. But even beyond that, she's just not the kind of person to get someone in trouble for something that, didn't really cause any real harm anyway. On the other hand, we see that Agat has been facing extreme guilt over it. That she's, like, held in this entire time. She's refused to let that out and refused to say or do anything about it, and it's been eating her up, and we see it kind of come to a head in this episode. And then when like, she gets the Sylph shoes back, and she's like questioning why someone would do something for her without expecting anything in return, which is really fucking sad, by the way, because it's like that is just such a it's a trauma response. People, I feel like, would quantify that. They'd act like, oh, it's just this little thing, but no, that's a trauma response. As someone who's experienced trauma, as someone who has done this kind of shit, like, it's hard to accept help from people for me, and even harder to ask for it. And much of the world has kind of like led me to believe that you can't do anything for anyone out of just the goodwill in your heart, that you have to expect something in return for it. And so whenever someone asks me, like, whenever someone or whenever I offer to do something for someone, I have like this almost ingrained like need to get something in return. And if someone offers to do something for me, I feel like I have to do something in return for them. Because that's been ingrained in my mind, because the idea of like doing something with no reward after is like treated as rude almost, which has never made sense to me. It's always something I've questioned and been confused about. You can do things for other people out of like the goodness of your heart, out of just wanting to help a friend or a family member. You don't have to get anything in return. And it's this kind of idea that feels really wrong to me. Expecting a reward for helping someone feels really like ethically and morally wrong to me. And it's something that's never sat right. But seeing like Agat here questioning why Coco, who she's, been nothing but mean and cruel towards for the most part, like 90% of the time. For Coco to continue to not only be nice to her, but to do things for her completely unprompted, just because she wants to, with no like desire for anything in return. It confuses and almost scares Agat, because clearly she was raised with all this insane pressure due to her family being connected and descended from an apprentice of one of the three wise ones. And so she's been raised with this idea that she has to be the best, that she has to be like perfect in all ways, and that nothing comes for free. That if you do something for someone, you get something in return, and vice versa. And it's this toxic lifestyle she's been raised into, these toxic ideologies that have made her so cold to others. And it's a more extreme version of Amity from the Outhouse. And again, Amity is obviously inspired by a goth. That's blatant at this point. Um, but this is like a much more intense, mature look at that. And not that it wasn't intense and mature with Amity and her mother Adalia in Owl House. It was, but just not as much so. This series, like, is just wowing me with this kind of stuff. And then there's Riche. This episode touches on Riche's disdain for authority, stemming from like the idea that these tests and everything else are like adults telling her what to do rather than letting her experience the world and experience magic for herself. She feels restricted and held back, and I feel like there's definitely something more to this. There's probably something with her family, or something in her past that has caused this hatred of authority. And I'm very curious to learn what that is. Because, like, we see that this kind of thing could easily go bad. A hatred of authority can lead to basically the same thinking that the Brimcaps have. Hating how the rules and everything are restricting magic and witches, and trying to usurp and upset that for their own sake so that they can do any and all magic as they will. So it's like Riche's on a dangerous path of thought here. And it's fascinating to think about for sure. And we also see that that Coco and Agat are both having sleeping issues. Coco having nightmares, thinking about her mother and stuff, and Agat just being a workaholic because of the pressure put on her. And by the end, we see it starts to affect Coco in a very negative way. Obviously, lack of sleep and everything can cause illness. It can cause your body to not, recover from those various bugs and stuff that come into your system over the course of a day. Sleep helps with recovery. Sleep helps with, just general healing. It's the body's natural way to recover and reset. And so Coco not doing that causes her to grow ill. And she passes out right in front of Agat, which I am so happy that it shows that Agat actually was really scared for her there. That she has started to grow to like Coco. And is genuinely like freaking the fuck out about it. She's genuinely so scared for her. Because she's not a bad person. She's just been raised in a bad way. And so I'm glad that we're developing this really well. This has like just proven to be like really good in that regard. And of course I have to talk about Kefri trying to figure out the dual bottle situation and actually coming face to face with the brimmed cap. That's fascinating. Because I did not think we were going to get any kind of like confrontation this season with that. But we got a little hint of what Kefri's goal is here. Something was taken from him. Again, I don't think it's like a physical object. I think it's something more like immaterial. Like a memory or even a person or something like that. And he's trying to get it back. And I assume it's the brimmed caps who took it. I don't know if it's this one specifically, but I'm very, very curious to learn more about this because they're drip feeding us little bits of this information and not giving us enough to really chew on just yet. So, excuse me. I'm wondering if we will get that by the end of the season, or if that is something that will like move into the future as well. I'm just very curious about all of that. And of course, at the end, we have Tarta, after helping Kefri get to the hospital for Coco. He's about to ask Kefri something, and that's the episode's cliffhanger. I have to assume it has to do with his disorder and everything, his color blindness. But we know that can't be healed because that would involve, like, magic done on the body. And this kind of brings up the entire thing that, like, Kefri was talking about in this episode as well. With the fact that when everything was restricted, it had to restrict even good things like healing. And the healing coven even like fought tooth and nail for this to not happen. And so it makes me wonder, is this something that is technically curable? Is this something that could be cured with unbridled, unrestricted magic? I genuinely wonder about that. And if that's the case, you also have to wonder, what else can magic cure? If magic can cure that, like a literal body disorder, what else can it cure? And it really makes you like wonder about like if this was a good idea to restrict magic to this degree. But again, as I said in the reaction, if they didn't, if they made that exception, then other, again, covens would start arguing for them to have exceptions too and be using like all kinds of evidence of their magic being super practical and useful. And it's like you can't like give an exception to everyone. And so it's better to just not give any exceptions, as hard as it is. Because this, again, was done to protect people because of all the evil ways that the magic had been used in the past. It had been used to hurt people and presumably kill. And so they're trying to, protect as many as they can. But again, they have to do that. They have to restrict genuinely good magic that could genuinely help people. So it is just one of those questions. What's right? What's the right, correct thing to do? And like I said in the reaction, I don't think there is a wholly singular right answer to this. I don't think there is a perfect answer that would make everybody happy. And that's the problem with these ideological questions. There's never going to be a perfect like response to them. Because anything you say that's going to help a lot of people is going to, push someone else down. Not necessarily intentionally, and definitely not like with ill intent, but it's not, you're not going to be able to, keep magic under control without restricting freedom. And again, that's kind of what the Brimcaps, at least so far, seem to be kind of like thinking about. That seems to be kind of their ideals, or at least the one that we've seen. And Riche's thoughts, like going into that kind of path, is frightening. I wonder if we are going to have Riche of all characters end up being, a problem at some point. Not actually going over to the bad side, but what if she starts sympathizing with the Brimmed Caps or having like thoughts about that? I don't think she will overall like go to their side, but even just her like considering it could be very frightening. This series, just the things it makes you think about, and how all of this again felt interconnected in a way that just really made a lot of sense and wrapped it up all neatly into this like full story rather than just interconnected moments, is amazing, honestly. This series continues to impress me so much. The amount of stuff it makes me like think about and question. It's like this is the kind of shit I want from not just this series, but any series I react to or watch on my own time, even. And so I'm hoping that we end up really delving into more of these kind of moral and ethical quandaries regarding the three wise ones and their and the rules and restrictions they set down, and also the things that the genuinely good aspects that they took away with this. I would love to see like an actual flashback with them, like actually get to see the three wise ones and maybe even see them like struggling over this entire kind of thing themselves. That would be cool. But the way things are being delivered as it is, with like the kind of storybook visuals and all that this series has like really done exceptionally at, it's like I'm fine with that too. So I won't complain there. Um but yeah, I'm just really loving this series more and more every episode. Like it's shocking how good this is. Like, when I've said that this might end up being like one of my favorite series ever, I'm not kidding. Like, what was it, episode 5, I still say is like one of the best episodes of anime I've ever seen. Period. And the fact that this series hasn't slowed down, although it's not as like incredibly action heavy as that most of the time, the fact that it hasn't slowed down in its quality at all since then, the fact that we still get like episodes that may not have like a bunch of action and stuff, but are still like chock full of phenomenal art and animation, phenomenal world building and character work, phenomenal like sound scoring. It's just like, this is genuinely, and I've said this before, but I genuinely believe that this series is generational. I believe that this series will define anime going forward. In the same way that Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood does. Hell, in the same way that Attack on Titan does. Even if I'm not a fan of Attack on Titan, I can't argue its generationality. Like, I'm not an idiot. I know how big of a deal Attack on Titan is. I think Witch at Atelier is the next series like that. I think that this is just one of the greatest that we've seen in a long, long time. I find the quality to be very top tier. I find the voice acting, like, pretty much everyone agrees that the dub is phenomenal. That it's one of the best dubs we've had in a long, long time. Everything about the production of this is, like, exceptional in quality. There's not been a single episode of this that I think, like, would deserve below a 9 out of 10 in terms of score. Not a single episode of this, honestly, I think deserves much lower than a 9.5. Like, maybe a 9.3 at the least, but going below that would seem wrong to me. That's how good this series has been. And I usually, with most shows I watch, it's like, oh, when I watch a show, it's like, oh, there's going to be some episodes here and there that I'm not as big a fan of for one reason or another. It's actually extremely rare for me to find a series where I am like this into like every single episode. The only other one I can think of off the very top of my head is Carol and Tuesday. Even One Piece, there are episodes I'm not as big a fan of. But like Carol and Tuesday is the only other series I think that I believe every episode was pretty much as close to perfect as you could get. In terms of like all being that level of exceptional quality without having any weak points in there. I'm not saying that like Carol and Tuesday is like the greatest show I've ever watched or anything, but honestly, the greatest show I've ever watched is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I genuinely stand by it. I don't think a show is better written or, executed than that. That I've seen, at least. But Carol and Tuesday is just like, again, I just don't think there's a single bad episode, and all the episodes within it, I think, are just like exceptionally high quality, too. Even if it's not my favorite series of all time, even if I don't think it's the best series of all time, like, it's still up there. Like, that's, again, another thing I don't make a secret of. Carol and Tuesday is one of my favorite shows. It's up there with the likes of Link Click and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Owl House and whatnot. So, yeah. But that being said, I'm signing off. Sorry for that. See you all next time.